Hi, I'm Jackie,
And I'm Seth,
and this is Never TMI,
where we talk about real things.
and nothing is ever off limits. Here we are.
All right, episode number 2.
Yes, so today we have an exciting topic. I feel like I don't know, I feel like we kind of had to push this to the beginning just because this is like a big ode to my Q&As kind of, and just how they became what they did. I feel like they slowly but surely became all about sex and all the questions. And I think it's totally something that people don't talk enough about. I think there's a lot of confusion or is everybody orgasming? How often are other people having sex? It's like no one really talks about it. So you're kind of just like, I think something's wrong with my sex life, or me, or my husband. And it just was like, I don't know. There were so many people that my Q&As literally turned into like a sex
talk.
Yeah. Which was the best because it was so fun. And I feel like we were all just learning from each other. And so we kind of wanted to start this one early on. This will not be the last time we talk about sex, but we just kind of wanted to give you at least start with where we came from, kind of just sex wise, and our sexual history within our marriage, and I guess even before. But yeah,
even before that, I think the reason we want to talk about sex is because sex life is so important to a great relationship.
Yeah.
And that's what we're kind of all about here, is just people having great relationships. And for us, that's our goal, is to have the best relationship that we can. And through, granted, we come from a place of we don't know it all. We're still figuring
humility,
it out.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we just are sharing kind of our journey through this topic and our experiences and mistakes that we've made, and also the things that we've learned.
And continue to learn. I feel like our goal is just to share with you as we learn, we are, because it's an area that we're passionate about, having an out of this world marriage and relationship, and, doing it in the best way possible. We're constantly diving in to learn as much as we can, and listen to podcasts and read books and talk to mentors and marriage counselors and just learn, soak it all up, marriage conferences. And so we just want to share what we have learned and things that have helped us and things that we're continuing to learn.
To that point, though, one of the things that we have learned is that sex is like a barometer for your marriage, or like a thermostat. It's kind of a symptomatic analysis of where your relationship might be. And not to say that that's always the case, but typically your sex life is connected to other aspects of your marriage or your relationship. And if you're in a good, healthy relationship, typically you're having more frequent or better sex, as opposed to if you're not where you would like to be sexually. That might be a sign that says, oh, maybe there's other areas of in my relationship that I need to work on.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm stressed. Maybe, we have anger issues, or there's a lack of trust. So it's kind of a telltale sign of where you're at in a relationship. And so that's kind of why we want to dive into that topic today.
And we'll, before we dive into kind of our, sex up to this point, I'll never forget my older sister was, her name was Jill. She was, I guess maybe I shouldn't say that, but whatever, she wouldn't care. She was talking to my mom, and her husband were arguing, whatever. She's like, we just cannot seem to get on the same page, whatever. And my mom, who they've been married for what, 35? What was their anniversary? I don't even know.
I don't
well over 30 years. She's her first response was, when's the last time you had sex? Because it's such it's so important. You could just tell, even with us, it's sometimes that's all you need. Is the most intimate, and it can be the most difficult thing. It's every little thing will get in the way of that for a reason, because it is the most like intimate. It strips you, I mean, quite literally. But emotionally, it's like the most vulnerable thing. It's where you two are able to connect and nothing's in the way. And it's just such a beautiful thing, such a beautiful gift. But it is so dang hard sometimes to get to that place. And so sometimes it's like he said, like it is literally like a thermostat to your marriage. Like if things aren't going so well, it's like you're probably not having much sex. And you know, sometimes there's a lot of reasons for that, but sometimes on the other hand, so all you need to do is have some sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not even that maybe it's not much sex, but maybe sex isn't enjoyable for you. And so we're going to kind of get into that as well. It's like it's got to be enjoyable for both partners.
Yes.
And so it's not, you know, and that's the thing with relationships that we've really learned is relationships are work. And if anyone has told you otherwise, that's a lie.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you want a
not
good,
just work,
healthy
I'm talking like in the ground.
Yeah, it is in the trenches.
The hardest thing we've ever done.
Commitment, work. Yeah. And so we'll get into that a little bit later. But I think we probably should start with just our story. And if you guys missed the first episode, go back, listen to that. That'll kind of give you a rundown of who we are and where we got to be where we are and why we're this way. So, but from a sexual standpoint, I think we should start with probably from the very beginning, going back to, you know, as we've mentioned before and Jackie's mentioned, we abstained in this relationship from sex until we were married. We had both had sex
with other people.
Yeah, outside of this relationship. And
before we met each other, like not while we were dating.
Yeah. And so we waited till our wedding night and
then I got my period.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
We started out in just a rocky place.
I literally was like, am I being punished? Like, well, I could not believe it. And then my mom, I think we were like literally, it was like our last dance. Like, day was the best day of my life. Okay, wedding day. Like, I look back, still one of the best days. Beyond birth. I mean, please, beyond birth. Absolutely. Beyond giving birth to my child, meeting my children, my wedding day. It was just the absolute best day ever. Okay, we're about to leave, you know, and do the final exit and everything. And I literally go to the bathroom because I'm like, oh, I have to pee, get my period. And then I tell my mom, my mom was like, Jackie, just don't tell him. I was like, mother, like, what do you mean don't tell him? Like, I was like, I'm at a loss. And it's very interesting to look back on that too. Side note, just like it was so scary, so uncomfortable. And now I would laugh at it today, but like now, I mean, in the moment, it was just like, it was so awkward. It was so uncomfortable. I was like, how do I tell him? What, you know, it was just a different world. I feel like we've come so far. It's just funny.
We have come so far, but when I think about it, it's also kind of like, I don't know. I feel like that describes our relationship and especially our sex life from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because we really started from a place of like, things weren't going the way that we thought they would. And it was like our expectations were just blown to pieces. And
from day one. Yeah.
From day one. And so, again, we talked about this previously, but we had our wedding night, didn't have sex. We didn't have sex till probably like 4 days into our
we went
honeymoon
to Mexico, which was a dream. Mexico. We did like those little overwater bungalow things, which was literally a dream.
But even in between then, I had gotten sick in like the first couple of days of being there.
He literally got like a cold, and then also
it was a bad
couldn't go in the sun.
Yeah, something happened with like sun poisoning.
We had ants in our room.
Yeah, our honeymoon was a trip. That was
the second half was
great. Second half was great.
The first half was
we crossed that the sex line.
Yeah, exactly. But it was just funny. It's like we literally had sex previously, and then we just wait, and it's gonna be this magical moment, and it was like, oh, it was anything but magical.
Yeah.
Which is fun. And that it's like, I don't know. I just wish more. There's so many people who in my Q&As would or will still just be like, it's just not, what I thought, and it's not as and it's like, oh no, lower everything, like lower your
Yeah.
expectations. The comparison is horrifying.
Comparison, man.
It's like, and what was that? It's like it's like the number one issue or something like with men when it comes to sex is like premature ejaculation.
Yeah.
And for women it's like lack of desire, which is so funny. It's like could not be more opposite. It's like, oh, I'm so excited I can't hold it, and then the women is just like, no, I don't care. Which also I will say there's 20%, I believe, right? 20% of women are more sexual than their spouse.
Yeah.
That was me in the first year of our marriage. So that was so lonely and isolating. I definitely felt like something was wrong with me just because I was like, why don't you want me? But again, if you heard our story, like Seth was just, he was just kind of a liar, at that point. And so much shame, so much like he was dealing with. And I was just like, please want me. Like, you've lied to me, you whatever. Like, this marriage is literally trash right now, but like, can we at least have sex so I have anything to hold on to, my dignity? So it wasn't even like this emotional lovey-dovey need. It was just like, we need to have sex.
Yeah, and there were so many other issues too. Just like
so many.
The whole scandal, Seth scandal.
Let's just call it that. Seth scandal.
That whole thing, and just emotionally being distraught.
Yeah.
Both of us arguing constantly because of that.
And I just made him feel terrible all the time.
Yeah,
kind of.
But then it was also just like, I'm working a lot. I'm working a job fresh out of college, working 10 plus hours a day. Jackie's at home living at the beach in San Diego, and just we live.
So I was like, I was
lives.
good. I was like, okay.
I got super unhealthy when Jackie got into like the best shape of her life.
Yeah.
Like, I would come home tired from work. She's ready to like party, and it's just we were on such different pages on multiple fronts.
And I think that's a big thing that people kind of can disregard. It's like sex. That's like so minuscule compared to like all that goes into it. Your hormones, let's not even get into like pregnancy, baby, breastfeeding. Aside from all of that, like you just on a daily basis, the food you're eating, where you're at emotionally, where your relationship is at, where your marriage is at, where you're like, are you stressed? How's your job? How's your sleep? How's your nutrition? Like, so many things go into your sex drive alone. And I think we just were in such a terrible place relationship wise. We were so on different pages. Yes. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm waiting for you all day. I have time to get ready in the morning, take my time. I went to the beach. I had an acai bowl. Like, life is good. I wasn't really working, which is like kind of funny. I was kind of doing like just random little side things, and then I would babysit, but it was like, whatever. He was on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, just like working himself into the grave, like gaining weight, not eating well, not sleeping well, stressed. So all the while I'm like, what is wrong with me? And he is just like, has no desire. Like, there would be weeks and weeks that it was just like, why don't you want me? And then we get in an argument, and then I would tear him down and be like, something's wrong with you, just because I was so insecure.
And then fast forward even, and obviously I know pregnancy has a big role in it as well.
A big role, yes.
Once we kind of came out of that season, I feel like then the sex roles did switch to where
totally. He became like sexual, hungry.
Yeah, and she.
I was like, I'm sorry.
And then we get into having kids, and she's pregnant, and and you can't even have sex for at least 6 weeks, like after pregnancy. So it's definitely a seasonal. The thing with sex, it's a seasonal thing that you want to look at it from a perspective of longevity, as opposed to like, I have a desire, I want my desire met.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with society today. We're trained for instantaneous gratification. But really, sex in a relationship or a marriage, you got to consider it over, I think, a lifespan of a marriage, and think it's something that I'm continuing to improve at and continuing to work on, as opposed to like, I'm a rock star, so let's do it tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Like no, and it's so much work. It's so
Yeah.
much work. Like it I remember I had posted something. I was like, sex is like a sacrifice, and it is. And I mean, I feel like I got ripped a new one by like 50% of people, because so many, it's like society is messed up when it comes to sex, just because you see a movie and you're like, well, we're supposed to be pouncing on each other. And even us in the beginning of our marriage, it was like, why aren't we doing it on the counter, in the bedroom, on the floor, on the whatever? It's like that automatically. It was like, are other people doing this? Because like I don't feel like it. Like I'm really tired, I want to go to sleep. So like I feel like society it's like we're all kind of, we have these messed up, skewed
Yeah.
expectations of sex, and it's like, no, it is a ton of work, and like communication is necessary and sacrifice is necessary. The amount of times that like both Seth and I, or you and your spouse or whatever, are going to be on the same page at the same time, that changed our marriage. I feel like when we found out like, oh, that's normal. Like
Right.
we're not going to be in the mood at the same time. So at some point, someone is going to have to sacrifice. You will always get there. There's never been a time we've had sex and one of us is just like a dead fish and just hating it. You always get to that point. But at first, for one or another, and it's happened to both of us multiple times, like we might not be as in the mood, but like your partner, you're the only one who can fulfill that desire in your partner. And it shouldn't be, you know, that is I will never, well, I shouldn't say I'll never reject him. I'll never like aggressively reject Seth. I've absolutely said like, look, I'm so exhausted. I would love to do in the morning, or, I'm super full. Yeah, we'll negotiate, and we'll get into the sex schedule in a second. But like, we'll kind of be like, all right, I see you're ready. I'm not, and I don't see myself getting there right now. Or this is just going to be like not an enjoyable situation.
Yeah.
Or him, like he's exhausted. He's been super full, or his stomach doesn't feel great. And it's just like, look, it's not happening. And it's like, great, let's try in the morning. Let's reschedule this just so we know it's going to happen. But like, it's okay. I think there needs to be like a safe freedom. You're not rejecting, you're not rejecting the person, the human. You're not rejecting your spouse. You're just rejecting the act of sex in the moment. And that's okay. And I personally, just being vulnerable, did not used to think that was okay. Like I used to think.
So yeah, let's finish our story real quick. So we have our wedding night fiasco. We go through the honeymoon, which ended up being wonderful.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, ish hits the fan. And that starts just a season of drought of sexual fulfillment, and really took a lot of work to go through that. We had so many other issues in our marriage other than sex, obviously, but coming out of that, I think we went to a conference. It was a XO conference, I think, and that is where we first heard the idea of scheduling your sex.
Side note, XO conference is hosted by Jimmy and Karen Evans. Highly recommend it. They've worked wonders.
A great resource
for us. Yes,
yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
So we heard about this concept through their conference, and as soon as I heard it, I was like, bam, that's it. That's what we need. That's going to change our marriage. That's going to change our sex life. And Jackie was just like, no way. Like, that is just a shot to my pride.
Yeah.
And I'm such a type A regiment person that, like, if you give me a schedule, like, I'm living my best life there. So it was just, it took us probably months to even agree to start scheduling it.
Yeah.
But once we did, I think we really found the benefits of it, or we began to see the benefits of doing it.
And I mean, I feel like a lot of people will ask, like, that was a huge thing. that I continue to this day to just get a ton of questions about is like, what if my spouse isn't on board? What if, my partner doesn't like want to do that, or, doesn't it kill the romance and all that kind of stuff? And those were all my fears of like, do I have to schedule it because you don't want me? Like, you don't naturally want me, or, you have to put it on a calendar to make it happen. Like I really, and we can just compare or, just have these expectations that are so false, like marriage. Like I posted a video not long ago that said like, oh, whatever, you'll find it somewhere. It's just on my Instagram. I posted a reel and essentially it went crazy. I'm talking like 60 plus million views. And a lot of comments were like, if it's this much work, like something's wrong, like leave him, divorce, whatever. And it was just like, this is society like that. And I'm not shocked by it. But I think it's something that's healthy to be aware of, is that like, your expectations, like make sure they're healthy, make sure they're attainable, make sure they're good, because I did feel like something was really wrong with me. And therefore I was like, no, I don't want to schedule sex. We should be doing this every day. You should want me all the time. This should be like a hot and heavy, fun, crazy. And it's like, that's so not realistic when you're dealing with real life and two completely opposite people and personalities and whatever.
And I think the other thing too is intentionality. Like that's the point behind it, because anything you really want in life, at least from the things that we've learned and gone through, like things aren't just going to happen on their own. So if you want to become, I don't know, a random example, if I want to be a runner, I can't just leave it up to say, oh, I feel like running today and I'm going to become a runner. Mm-hmm. Like, no, I'm going to have to put in time and put it on a schedule to say, I'm going to run at this time on this day. Yeah. Like if that's a goal that I have. And so just like that, sex is kind of the same way, in the sense that, no, I know that I need to be intimate with my wife, with my spouse, and just
to make it a routine thing.
And it's important enough for me that I'm going to set aside time at a given time and a given day to devote to this. And so that's really what I think that really helped us kind of get out of the funk that we were in.
Totally. That was literally the thing.
The main thing. Started. If we could point back to one thing that really started our journey and kind of re-trajectory of coming out of everything that we'd gone through. And so today, I can't say that we always schedule our sex.
Babies and pregnancy and all that definitely
that throws a wrench in things,
change things. But it's also, it's so important. Like in every single season, like I would say pregnancy is probably the hardest. And we're literally like, I've been super open on my Instagram, but we've been, like as of the end of this year, basically right now, like we're gearing up to like enter, Lord willing, a season of pregnancy again. And, we're essentially in that like family planning phase. And so that changes the game too. I think postpartum is a whole thing. And then newborn life is a whole thing. And then you're like managing kids. I feel like it's so important and it's so vital. And there's so many people who have been like, wow, this changed our marriage. Like, who didn't know about scheduling their sex or who was hesitant about it. And they're like, oh, I see what you mean, because it's just, I don't know, it's just a point. And however many times you have to agree. So however many times a week or a month that you both feel like I'll be satisfied and one of you isn't like bending more than the other, when you kind of come to an agreement on, yeah, this is good. That could be once a month. Whatever works with you guys is fine. Just make sure you're in agreement, but whatever it is, don't compare, whatever, just you two are the ones who are married to each other. So that's all that matters, that you guys are okay with it. But like, it is important to reassess in every phase. So during the first trimester of pregnancy, there ain't no schedule, because like that feels almost impossible, because I'm like, I will throw up on your face, and that's just not it. Like, this isn't working. Or the third trimester, we're not really scheduling it. It's just like, if it happens, it happens, because it's painful, it's uncomfortable. Which, okay, let's get into that. So the communication, how important communication is when it comes to sex.
Yeah. So we, again, we're just coming from a place, not that this is the law or the Bible by any means, but this is just kind of things that we've learned in our experience, and as we've studied and listened to people, and even just through our experience, I would say we probably have a few like main points that we could kind of come back to that's improved our sex life, which is improving our relationship. And again, that's kind of our goal here, is we want healthy, good relationships. And like Jackie said, communication is a huge point of that. And I think communication includes a lot, we're talking like when, what, and how of sex. So like when, we obviously talked about the schedule. So when are we going to have sex? And again, like Jackie's saying, you have to agree to that. I think a point I do want to touch on with that, though, is it's like Jackie also mentioned, is there is a sacrificial part of sex, in the sense that if I or my spouse is continually deferring sex to say, oh, can I reschedule? I don't feel well. Oh, I don't. Like, again, take into context the season of life, pregnancy or not. But considering, if things are normal, like there is a point where even if you don't feel like it, the other person has a sexual need. And I think one of the things we've learned is that typically, Jackie pointed out a statistic earlier, roughly 20% of women have a higher sex drive than men. But, typically a man has a higher sex drive. Typically men
are more sexual.
Men have an actual need for sex. And not to say that women don't, but women seem, generally speaking, have a more
emotional need.
More needs for an emotional love fulfillment that needs to be met before they become sexual. And so
so for example, like I will become, I'm bound to become more aroused sexually if Seth meets my needs emotionally. So like,
so if I treat her like a jerk all day and then I'm
it's like, no, bro, sorry,
sex that night, it's like it doesn't quite work like that. And so there has to be a meeting of the minds and a balance to say, okay, you want it once a month, but I want it once a day. Where are we got to meet in the middle somewhere. And so, but also on the flip side of that, for men, like, because they are more sexual, women, there are times I absolutely don't feel like it. There just are. And again, I will always get there physically. So I never, it's like working out, like you never regret it ever. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. That was great. This is like going to help our marriage. But like, do I feel like it sometimes? Absolutely not. But if I meet him and I'm not really in the mood, and I could like cuddle for a year and be okay in certain seasons, like that's probably not like out of love and, care for like Seth. I'm going to be in a little bit more of a season of like, it just feels like a more sacrificial season. But like, again, if I meet him physically, he becomes more emotional. So like, absolutely, he is stripped down. Yeah. He is more vulnerable. His communication, he feels I'm a safer place for him. Like he feels like, man, you are like the light of my life. You are my safest place. I can be 100% myself with you. Like having sex with him changes that. You know what I mean? And I will say, this is, our motto here is to be real.
Never tell my babe what.
Right. But I will say we have had some great conversations in the act of sex.
Some of our best.
It's like men, when they are fulfilled sexually, they can sometimes just become like butter
a different person.
Yeah,
no, literally. Like, oh, absolutely. Like I mean, it was very recently that Seth was like, wait, no, can we keep talking? Because I was like, I'm sorry, I'll stop talking. He's like, no, wait, I'm really liking this. Like, let's go. Yeah. And it's just funny because it's so true. Yeah. No. Get out of here. No, I know. So no, I feel like, yes, women, you know, when men are able to like, and that's okay to communicate to your spouse too. It's like, look, yeah. I'm not really feeling it. You could go to work, come home, I make dinner, all this kind of stuff. It's like, I'm sorry, you're the last thing on my mind right now. Like, I'm tired. Absolutely not. But if they're being intentional, which is why all of the little tiny things that you feel like don't matter when it comes to your sexual fulfillment, your sex life. Because when he writes me a note in the morning and sticks it in, you know, the whatever handle of my coffee, or when he writes a little post-it note, or when he randomly brings home flowers from Trader Joe's. Those are such little things that go such a long way that I'm like, oh, okay, you're getting me in my emotions, and I'm so much more, you know, apt, I don't know, to have sex with you. It's like, because you're getting me in the right place. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's a statistic too, is like, what is it, when men are like doing housework, that's like the number one response. They did like a test.
Oh yeah, it was something about like when men actually sweat, it produces a hormone or something that is actually attractive to a female.
So it's like, how do you get to work?
Yeah, so
you know. But anyway, okay.
So that's kind of the how of
yes,
or the when, you know, when it comes to communicating when you're going to do it.
I think also communicating when you're not, like what you like and don't like, is super important.
So that would get into like how and what of communication. So like, how are we going to do it?
Yeah.
What feels good for you? And there's a couple stats that I wanted to.
And I think, you know, what feels, that's another huge question I get, is like, how do I tell my spouse that like what he's doing is not feeling good? And my number one answer will remain the same. It's like, tell him, literally tell him, do it lovingly, because it is such a sensitive subject. Do it lovingly and do it so tenderly. And I always say sandwich it. So like, oh, I'm so in love with you. You're so hot. You're the sexiest man I know. I love you. This that you're doing is not my favorite. I like this better. Or it kind of like, ever since having children, like TMI, but you know, there's no such thing here. I feel so tickly. I hate it. Like, I feel so tickly, and I need to be, my body needs to be like warm in order to not like laugh or want to like punch his arm away, because I'm like, this just feels so sensitive. Everything is just touchier. So it's like, maybe I've literally had to say like, just go for it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need the little here and there, like just go for it. And, you know, sandwich it, but I think you'll be shocked. Like, men literally want to do
our desire they want to please you. Right.
So tell them, if you're not being pleased, they're not happy. It's like, no, I want you to feel incredible. So like, coach me, teach me. And Seth has literally said that, like, no, I need you to tell me. And it changes everything. And there's certain things he, you know, stays away from, or he just knows how to do things better, to where I'm like, he can be proud, you know, at the end, and be like, yeah, I can tell that was good, because like, he knows, and I'm able to communicate with him, and he's able to communicate with me what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And I think it's important. We try to do like a marriage kind of retreat every single year, just to like talk about these things. So I think it really is more important than people think, to like discuss, I like this, I don't love this, I love when you do this, I don't, you know, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's important.
And you know, that goes for men too. Like,
totally.
You know, so sometimes we have to check our pride and just be humbled, in the sense that maybe I'm not as good as this as I thought. Also, in society today, and I have a stat for it, but 9 out of 10 Americans have had sex before marriage. And so when you're in a married relationship or a committed relationship, there's a high probability that you're bringing in connotations to your relationship that you've had in other relationships. So you're applying memories, things you did in past relationships, expectations you're now applying to that to a different relationship. And I think it's very important to note that not every relationship, especially, across the board, but really we're talking about sexually, is not going to be the same. Yes, the act of sex is what it is, but each person has different desires, different wants, touches,
needs.
Yeah, it's like you have to spend the time to learn your spouse as a new individual, and really to
wipe
rid
the slate
yourself
clean.
of the past experiences that you've had, to kind of just learn and receive from them what they want and how they like to be pleased. A couple other stats we have here that we haven't mentioned already. 25% of women, roughly 1/4, have orgasms through vaginal intercourse. Most women need direct clitoral stimulation to climax.
That's a big one.
So basically what this means is, for most women, they don't climax through intercourse. So I know we're talking about sex, but another point we're going to get to in a little bit is like, communicate what feels good other than just intercourse. Like,
totally.
And how can I please you in other ways than just having sex? Like, position wise, or even before that, foreplay. Like, what do you like?
I think too, like, that's so huge. I feel like it's so big. I cannot say I've in person met anyone who has yet, just like through penetration or the act of sex, has like orgasm. So many women are like, is something wrong with me? I have an orgasm. Do I need to go see someone? Whatever. And it's like, oh girl, it takes time. I have talked to people who say, I can do it myself. My husband has never been able to do it. I'm only able to do it myself. I mean, it's like, I feel like it takes a little bit more for some women. Every woman is different. Every body is different. I feel like it takes more than just sex often for women to actually have an orgasm. So like 9 times out of 10, nothing is wrong with you. It's like, just continue to like, which we had to do. It's like, he was like, oh, I want you to orgasm. I want you to whatever. And it was like, I literally, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if I can like this. I literally don't know if this is going to happen. And like, this will beautifully lead into the topic of porn as well, and kind of like the boundaries that you need to set within your relationship. For us, and we are so passionate about this, porn is an absolute no-go. It's a non-issue. It's a non-option. And there's so many reasons for that. And that is just one tiny little reason. It's just the comparison. It's like, what you see on that screen, honey, ain't going to happen here. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think to that point too, it's worth noting that sex it's intended to be a good thing. Sex is intended to be a pleasurable thing, more than just for the sake of having babies. Like,
oh yeah. But it's supposed to be crazy and fun and everything.
But the thing with sex though is that it can easily become a perverted thing, especially in our society. Yeah. And even if you look throughout history, like, sex has always been a controversial, perverted topic. And so that's kind of,
especially spiritually, like in religious standpoint, for sure.
Yeah. And so you kind of, we have found that having parameters in sex is very important to having a healthy sex life. But, and I will say though, there is a wide menu of things that we think are acceptable from a sexual standpoint.
Totally.
Pornography, bringing in a third party, stuff like that. I would say very few things are off limits. But again,
for us, for like very specific reasons.
Yeah, for us. But other than a few things, there is a wide menu of things that you guys can do to please each other, you know, from a sexual standpoint in a committed relationship. And those are the things that you have to communicate about. And so really communication is such a key aspect in everything in life.
Yeah.
It's no different when it comes to sex. I think you were kind of going into it a little bit as well. Another point that we wanted to emphasize when it comes to sex is commitment. And so, like, you want to be committed to one another, and even just being committed in your relationship or marriage. And I know marriage is kind of like a elevated status of commitment in today's society sometimes.
Yeah.
But like commitment, really, like having an element of trust and being able to trust your spouse, being able to say, you know, I trust you, even from a purity standpoint of like, you're not going to go out and cheat on me.
Yeah.
And that creates emotional ties in relationships that are really important, but also directly connected to your sex life. If I can't trust you, like if I couldn't trust Jackie that I think she's going to cheat on me, or I think she's going to go off and have these fantasies with other people, like that's going to affect my
Intimacy.
relationship with her, and it's going to affect my desire for her. So
porn is an issue that not an issue. It's a topic, a subject that we are definitely going to cover at some point, just because that's like a big one. And it's like, I feel like I'm usually so open to, we both are very open to like differing opinions and like working through, you know, certain things and all that kind of stuff with different people and all that kind of stuff. Like we love it. Porn is one of those things that I'm like, you're not going to change my mind, but like that is something I feel like we're definitely going to talk about. But it is so important. It's like, I don't want to be compared to other women. I don't want, you know, these expectations. I don't want like third parties in our marriage, in our relationship, in our sex life. Like Seth was just saying, like as far as the purity aspect and the safety, like sex is such a personal, vulnerable, intimate thing. Like you are literally, it is the most vulnerable thing you can do. There's a reason for that. There's such a beauty to it. It's such a gift. But like you do just want to make sure, like, if there are any little things in it all just goes hand in hand. It's like it all loops together. If there's something in your marriage that's not super great and it's keeping you from intimacy, that's where the work comes in. Like you have to put that work in. We have continued to have to put so much work. Like there are times we get in arguments and it's just like, I don't want you. I'm not attracted to you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to sleep with you. Nothing. But like, again, those boundaries, that's where those come in. Like, we're not going to sleep in separate beds. I'm not going to go text some old boy randomly out here just because like him and I aren't good. There has to be that safety and security for both of us, for him to know I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay. You stink right now, but like, I'm not going anywhere. I want him to always, and as badly as I literally wish sometimes, like as angry as I can be, to be like, I'm leaving, you know, it's like, my heart is for him to know, like, I love this man. My heart is for him to know I'm not going anywhere. So I'm not going to threaten I'm going to leave. I'm not going to go out and not tell him. I'm not going to go watch porn and do whatever or whatever. Like you have to set boundaries and work to be that safe place for each other and have security, especially for women. The number one thing that we desire in a relationship is security. I need to know you love me. I need to know you're not going to go anywhere. I need to know, like, even if we're arguing, I'm still the most beautiful woman in your eyes and I'm still the one you choose over absolutely anyone, and tell me why. You know, it's like security is everything. So things like porn and just lack of like purity or just kind of these expectations you're putting on me. Like, I need to be able to feel okay and safe and free to say, I don't love that, or I'm upset with you and I don't 100% feel like it right now. Like, I don't want to see that the only thing on your mind is sex. I want to see that you're like striving and working to make this relationship the most beautiful thing that it can be, instead of like, you just want me for my body. It's like, no, I want you to want, again, the emotions, like, want my heart. No, like, why did you fall in love with me? So I think that's important.
Yeah, and that goes into kind of our third point here before we wrap it up. Our last point is just the amount of work it takes in a relationship, but really work to even have romance. And so
totally,
sex is a byproduct of romance, and sex is more than just the physical act of having sex. It's emotionally, it's spiritually, it's physically, it touches all the senses. And so, and I think that's going to be even probably more of an issue for men, but men typically have a higher need for sex. And sometimes I think and especially myself personally, I can forget the fact that I need to romance my wife.
Yeah.
And
daily.
Yes. But when I do that, I reap the reward of more sex. Like by stroking her emotional ego, I return get a stroked ego.
Or a stroked, what?
So it's like,
yes,
the idea of romance in a relationship will dramatically improve your sex life, and it just makes it more fun. Like it's really an intimate moment that requires intentionality. Mm-hmm. And the more you put into it, I think the more you reap from it in terms of pleasurability and satisfaction, and even just the closeness of being, with your partner, with your spouse. Like,
yes, you're in it for life. Like, that is the goal. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is my best friend. Mm-hmm. How am I making him feel? Like, how does he feel today? Aside from sex, it's like all of it does tie together. So sex will, that will be like a reaped benefit from everything. But like, and even women, our desire for sex will increase if things are like going smoothly and I feel so loved and so emotionally filled. Like, my cups are filled. He's helping me with the kids. He's helping me with the dishes. He's helping me with dinner. He's helping me like in all these other areas. He's making me feel loved. I always tell Seth, like, I don't care. I am probably like the least like feminine woman. Okay. That's been like something my whole life, that I'm a very like aggressive, dominant female. That does not take away the fact that I do not want to feel like a princess. Am I a princess? Yes and no. Okay. So like, I'm not like, but at the same time, like, I'm more of like, if you look at like Disney princesses, I would fall more into the like Brave / Moana category, not necessarily like the Cinderella, whatever. So like, I feel like no matter what, at the end of the day, you just want to feel like a princess. You want to feel loved and catered to, and you want that tenderness, even though that might not be your personality. Aside from all of that, like the romance, for you as well on your end. Like, if I'm giving him massages and if I'm rubbing his feet, and I like, those aren't things that I'm like, man, I would just love to like give you a foot rub. No, but it's like, that's the work that goes into him feeling loved and him feeling thought of and special. And it's so funny because when it comes to like a super out of this world, successful, beautiful marriage and relationship, it's the little things that just add up. It's such like, for Seth to feel special. Like, there's times every now and then that we're both like, he'll be like, I don't know, like, I don't know. Massages are like a huge thing. So it's like, I'm not giving him back scratches or, massages, stuff like that. That adds up over time. It's been like, it's been 2 weeks since you've like rubbed anything. Or for him, it's like, it's not like a necessity, but it's been a long time since you've like written me a little note and, learn each other's languages and love each other in those ways. But like, the little things will add up so much and have such a massive impact on your sex life. And like, when you guys are, if there's something, I always say, like, if there's something that's driving a wedge in your marriage or your sex life, deal with that first. Mm-hmm. Deal with it. Like, even if it has nothing to do with sex, deal with that issue in whatever way you need to. Talk to someone. I always say, like, bring in a third party who's just non-biased, like not a sister or not a best friend, but like someone who you really look up to, who's really, they're not going to like go tell your parents or something. Like someone outside of your family that can actually speak life and wisdom into your relationship, that you just say, hey, can we just have a conversation with you real quick because we have this issue? Like, all of it is important, but when it comes to sex, like, you just want to make sure you're putting in that work, because it takes a ton of work. We have to check ourselves all the time. Like, is he romancing me? Is he pursuing me on a daily basis? He literally has a reminder in his phone that says what? What does it say? Love Jackie or something?
I did. I think I got rid of it, but
why? Oh my gosh. Well, either way, it was every now and then it was like you do a great job of loving me. So
thank you.
I couldn't tell. That's a good thing, that I couldn't tell that the reminder is now gone. But it's like, whatever you need to do, write it down, like do something every single day. Go rub his back, go slap him on the butt, go do something that's like, look, you and I, we're a team and we're putting in work and we're parents here and all that kind of stuff. But like, let's not forget you and I are the priority, and sex is so important and critical for relationship success and health. Yeah. So like, let's make sure we're doing everything we can to like make that a priority, make it happen,
I agree. And I think too, something else that I've learned that I really didn't believe in at first until I was proven wrong. But there's a book called The 5 Love Languages by...
Couldn't tell you.
I have no idea.
But you'll find it very easily. It's a very popular book.
It's a very popular book. That has proven to be true. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that Jackie actually wanted to and would receive love better in certain ways or certain areas than others. And so like, I would try to love Jackie, or I would try to romance Jackie in ways that I would like to be romanced. But for her, it didn't mean anything. So,
for example,
if I wanted a back rub, I might give her a back rub, and she's like, "Oh, that's nice," but I'm not filling up her love cup because that isn't the way that she likes to be loved. Yeah. She likes words of affirmation, but I'm doing nothing to the fact of like, I'm not affirming her. I'm not telling her that I love her.
Like the note, like you hear me say, like the letters, the notes. It's like, whoa, that makes my life. Whenever he's like, Jackie, I love you so much, I'm like, what made you say that? Tell me more. Why? Tell me why you love me. Let's give each other 3 reasons. And for him, it's acts of service. Like I could literally give him a million back rubs or words of affirmation. I think is number last on his list. So I will just
the opposite,
completely opposite, and you will see over time how completely opposite we are. Yeah. But his was acts of service, and that's literally my last. So it's like, if I'm trying to love someone, I'm going to give you gifts. I'm going to tell you how incredible you are. He's like, don't buy me anything. You're ruining our budget. I don't care what you have to say about me or my clothes. It's like, literally just put the laundry away. Just, do the laundry. And it's funny. I literally feel like we kind of defy every stereotypical, like I'm the one that leaves the toilet seat open. And he gets upset and it's like, Jackie, close the toilet seat. I just don't, you know what I mean? He thinks it looks cleaner. I'm like, no, it looks better up, So it's funny. You'll see, like, I literally feel like the man in a relationship, and, he's more like, Jackie, clean up, like, more organized, whatever. But
so knowing what your spouse's love language is going to be extremely important for you to romance them well. Yeah. And so just because you're doing things that you think are romantic doesn't mean that that's it's romantic translating. To them. And so that's kind of, I guess to summarize, our 3 main points were communicate, commitment, and romance, and just and all work. Of that, the work that goes into having a good sex life, or working on your sex life, or the things outside of your sex life that will contribute to you having a better sex life. Because again, our goal here is to hopefully inspire people to have better relationships, to catch a vision that just an average relationship is Like, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to just have an average relationship.
No, you can have insane,
Everyone
fun
can
sex.
have a great relationship, but you have to be willing to work at it. And sex is a huge part of that.
And we just want to be real. We just want to share with you guys. We want these to be like, obviously we're still learning, but it's like we literally just want to be open and honest with you guys and just be like a safe and vulnerable place for hopefully you take something away from these. But at the end of the day, we just want you to feel like a little less alone and a little less like something's wrong with me or something's wrong with my relationship. It's like, no, conflict is good. Sex issues, like having to talk through these things is so healthy, so good. So like, don't be discouraged. We literally just want to like come alongside of you and do this together because we're in it too. We're in the thick of it all too. We literally just got into a massive argument last night. Like it is what it is. So like, we're all good. And that's definitely a goal here is to just like give you, we want you to relate. I want to relate to people, it's inspiring and helpful for us when we're able to be like, oh, we're not messed up. Like, okay, good. It's like, no, we're all just figuring it out. So that's a goal as well. But thank you for tuning in on this episode. Trust me, this will not be the last. You hear about this. There's so much
that we could get to. So.
Yes, so much on this topic, but we just wanted to like, I don't know, just give you a little more insight on like where we come from and, our story and our sex past and all that kind of stuff. But we're so excited just to like keep diving in, and we just really appreciate you guys. So yeah.
So again, I'm Seth.
And I'm Jackie.
And this is Never TMI, and we are signing off.
Bye.